Rhythm is the expression of intensities in space-time. Everything that exists on a continuum of material explication. From minerals to minds, all individuated things have rhythm. Fields of speeds and slownesses. Bundles of trapped intensities.
Pre-modern conceptions of time are bound to the cyclic nature of phenomena such as astrology. In the philosophy of Plato, this was reflected in the eternal, the stasis of being. The eternal served as a divine archetype from which time steams. During the Enlightenment, conceptions of time radically departed from this principle, leading to a time divorced from calendric cycles. In retrospect, it is difficult to judge whether capitalism required a more precise measurement of time, or whether a new conception of time generated new time-measuring instruments which, like the clock, reorganized the abstract relations of production.
Within capitalism's transcendental time machine, Anna Greenspan traces the creation of the abstract time of capitalism back to the Enlightenment, and outlines the parallel restructuring at play within the epistemological shift of Immanuel Kant's Copernican turn. Within the Critique of Pure Reason, Kant outlines two pure forms of appearance, space and time. In his terminology, space is defined as an outer sense and time as an inner sense. Time, in Kantian epistemology, then became the necessary precondition for any potential experience, flipping the dependency relation of the pre-moderns. There is no concept which can be constructed without this a priori spatio-temporality. Time is both abstract, in that it undergirds the potential for experience, but is not directly itself experienced, and immutable, an infinite numerical value.
In transcendental philosophy, rhythm is created by schematism. For Immanuel Kant, schematization was responsible for the correspondence between conceptual and socio-temporal determinations. Because schematization required concepts, and was an operation of the faculty of imagination, it was an exclusively human activity. Post-Kantian transcendental philosophy protested that, if a human mind exists, it must itself be the result of schematization. This would mean that concepts are continuous with, but secondary to, matter. The mind that thinks them is a material rhythm. The objects they denote are rhythms too.
Historically, the synthesis of the Christian Georgian calendar with the technological development of the quartz crystal clock generated a new temporal regime. Greenwich Mean Time. This universal standard of globalized time made explicit the relation between concrete working time and labor extraction as formalized through the phase of the clock. The workday was no longer bound to the cyclic nature of daylight, but to the precise frequency of a crystal. The crystal clock, as well as abstracting labor from the calendric cycle of the seasons, served as a way of synchronizing industrial processes from actual factory production to railroad traffic, as Moishe Postone describes.
Abstract time, on the other hand, by which I mean uniform, continuous, homogeneous, empty time, is independent of events. The conception of abstract time, which became increasingly dominant in Western Europe between the 14th and 17th centuries, was expressed most emphatically in Newton's formulation of absolute, true and mathematical time, which flows equably without relation to anything external. Abstract time is an independent variable. It constitutes an independent framework within which motion, events, and action occur. Such time is divisible into equal, constant, non-qualitative units.
Proponents of crystal healing understand the cosmos as a vast rhythmic continuum. Inorganic matter occupies one end of the spectrum, oscillating stably at low frequencies. Mental energy occupies the other, oscillating erratically at higher ones. The solemn pulse of an ancient mineral temporality, and the complex cadence of a hybrid modern time. Because they are faster and more chaotic, high-spectrum frequencies tend to drift out of sync quickly. Their complexity makes them susceptible to environmental feedback. Mental, emotional and material problems are understood as the superficial symptoms of lost or inauspicious resonances. But this vibratory energy can be tuned and resynchronized using the stable frequency of a crystal as a regulator. Thus the process of crystallization is a synecdoche for the process of crystal healing. It charts a path from chaos to perfection.
With the emergence of Turing machines and the possibility for global networking, new models of synchronization and consensus building among machines, synchronization beyond the crystal clock, were needed. The systems of synchronization, distribution, and consensus necessary to coordinate machines in large networks are epistemologically slippery. Although Greenwich Mean Time still clearly denotes the relationship between workers and production, however abstract, this relation becomes blurred amongst the multitudes of timekeeping and consensus systems emerging in the form of protocols such as proof of work, Paxos.
But is synchronization oppressive or emancipatory? Is the resonance sought in healing time a refuge or a prison? Perhaps crystals are to the vibratory milieu what a calendar is to the social one. Vibratory imperialism.
Since the insight is defined by what happens in time, that means the lived experience of the individual, the outside in contrast, the exterior, is the prior productive force of time itself. The human subject and its thoughts become transformed and abstracted beyond the strictly human by the transcendental occult nature of time.
Not only can they be employed to realign a dissident rhythm, they can also be programmed with an intention, a pattern that the programmer wishes to install in reality. When a crystal is programmed, two schematisms interface. The schematism of the programmer and the schematism of the crystal. Stable oscillation is understood to be more powerful, so the inorganic schematism of the crystal will always colonize the hybrid schematism of the programmer. In order to be successful, a programmer must choose a type of crystal that resonates with the frequency of their intention. Quartz crystals are favored because of their special versatility. Uniquely tunable to multiple frequencies, quartz is known to healers as the master crystal. These primordial resonators are also used to keep the time in contemporary digital clocks. They are at once the most ancient and the most modern of temporal technologies. Through their usage, the far ends of time are synchronized and controlled.
Temporal secessionism is, on the one hand, a cartography of these novel time systems, a mapping back to forms known to us such as the clock, and on the other, a concealed possibility, the creation of heterogeneous micro-time zones, a series of secessions from a universal timekeeping system, to build and map new clocks, new calendars, new times, and new synthetic interiorities.
Etymologically, the word calendar encodes a call or a summons. Exemplifying the political pedigree of temporal regulation, the word dates back to the colons of Imperial Rome. In programming a crystal with an intention, the user calls Osman's rhythm and sends it out to re-schematize reality.
We have 3 different time zones derived from 3 different processes: proof of work, a modulating crystal frequency, and a consensus algorithm named Paxos. Temporal Secessionism maps different branches of techno-specific timekeeping back to the clock and back to the human epistemic scope.
Ask yourself, am I being re-schematized? Crystal healers will tell you rose quartz helps you fall in love. This is a trap. Falling in love is a catastrophe that corresponds to the effacement of all prior schematization. The best way to evade capture by the vibratory empire is simply to fall in love.